Okay, then we can officially start off. And today I am joined by not one but two people. One being Jabari on the beat, MELMIGE channel initiation, and for the second time, you're the first person that I've ever interviewed twice. We've got SEWERPERSON.
Yeah.
And so we're the GOAT, and we're here to talk about a couple different things, but primarily focusing on your guys' new collaborative record being Screwy, which just came out like a week ago. It's been popping off. It's been a lot of fun. But before we get into that, I do kind of want to talk about your guys' history, because you guys have been working together as collaborators for quite a while now, and you've probably got a pretty extensive discography that you've shared together. And so this kind of started off about 4 years ago, because, you know, SEWERPERSON, you are dropping these color-themed EPs with a kind of varying degree of YouTube producers, nonprofit beats. But then, you know, you start dropping these comment songs, and the producer tags are Jabari, Jabari, Jabari. And so how were you all introduced to each other's work, and when did you sort of begin to formally work together as a cohesive unit?
Yeah. Do you want to start off with that, Jabari?
Yeah, I'll definitely start. I feel like I met Miles at such a great point in my career, because I was just getting into the industry, and just learning a lot about people and things you should just know about the industry in general. So I want to say like around that was like 2019. I want to say like end of 2019 going to 2020. Around that time I was really like green, I want to say, in the industry. So I was really happy to have met someone like Miles at that time. He was real honest, you know. I don't know if he was me. They shared so much, but you know, he was working, I was working, you know. So it was really practical, you know. It wasn't like one person like in a whole different realm from someone else, you know. And we just hit it off right away. But I don't know how much he wants me to tell, but Miles could tell you a little bit more, you know.
Yeah. No, absolutely. It was like really by chance, and I'm super grateful for it, because I was on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
And I was looking through type beats, and the only person on YouTube, like after like a night of searching, that I found that made actually like good Drake type beats, like, was Jabari. Because I was like, okay, you had people like, they kind of like, I'm not saying like, I'm not hating on anyone, but like you had people like
Go ahead, drop some names.
Yeah. Let me just get my list. Yeah, but you have people that are kind of like not duping sounds, but like keeping it very like centered to, okay, this and that. Like there's a Drake song that sounds like this, so make a beat that sounds like this. But like Jabari was the only one that I found that could like take a vibe and then skew it to his own personal sound and speak his own language into something that kind of gave off a similar vibe to whatever artist you were searching for. So it was like the only one that I found with artistic intuition in it and like actually knew things. And I was like, oh, this shit is dope. And that's when we made K, and I made the song, and then I sent it off to Jabari, and I was like, yo, I just hit your beat. Like, I think I dropped it already. Yeah. And it was dropped already. And I sent you the link. I was like, yo, you went crazy. Like, definitely gotta get more. And then you were feeling it as well. And we just started off from there. I want to say 2019. You got it. Yeah.
Ripping and running.
Yeah, we were both. Yeah, I was definitely like, Sewer was a totally new thing for me as well, and like I was just really grateful for somebody not only to work with, but that like had the same grind and had the same mindset and was like ready to put pen to paper. And if I was like, oh man, I'm feeling like making this song, like Jabari would already have a beat sent through already, and it was like a cool little chemistry that we didn't speak about, because it would be there as soon as I was him.
Yeah,
I was like, okay.
Well, yeah. So, I mean, when you look at those color EPs, you have like pink with like Helicopter, Captain Morgan, and then you have the blue with like Sunbeams and stuff like that. It feels very experimental, and it feels like you're kind of shooting off in all these different directions. The SEWERPERSON account is very new, and it feels like on Comet you feel focused and you feel reeled in and you feel like you have a really set intentional sound in mind. So it's almost like you guys kind of like consolidated into a really cohesive sound. And since Comet, there's been 3 sequels. We're on Comet 4 as of 2022.
Yeah.
And so, you know, starting off with Comet, where this is kind of really just coincidental, back into 2, 3, and 4, where there are a lot more intention behind the projects. You guys are working as definitive collaborators. How do you think that your guys' dynamic and workflow has evolved since that initial spark of creativity between you two?
Do you want to go for it?
Yeah, fuck it. I'll say how I'm feeling about it. You know, like over the years, like even with the first comment, I don't want to say like it wasn't pre-planned. Like we didn't know it was going to be the same sound and everything, but we kind of just both knew at the moment, like, all right, this is the vibe right here, you know. So it's sounding like kind of similar and stuff. So I guess like me personally as the producer, like as Comment went further and further, like my goal, I want to say part of my goal in mind, I want to say once I hit Comment 3 was like, of course, keep it cohesive, but keep the whole story cohesive, you know, because up until Comment 3, to me, it was like, yo, as long as the whole album sounds cohesive as a producer, I'm doing my job for Miles, you know?
Yeah.
But I want to say a good thing Miles told me after working with him for so long is like, he really does tell a story with like, from the album cover to the track listing to like, everything is very intentional, you know, and taking that cohesion from everything sounds the same to everything sounds the same and so it's telling the same story was very important for me, you know. And I feel like it really came out, at least for me, like in Comment 3. Comment 2 was great for me, but it's like way more variety in terms of like the music and like the story I'm trying to tell. But like I feel like me personally, Comment 3 sounds so good and juicy to people because it's like that cohesion, you know, like that was me realizing like as a producer, like, okay, it's not just enough to make the same sounding beats for an album, but also help Miles tell the story he's trying to convey with like the Comment series or whatever the topic is for the song, you know.
Yeah.
But that's just not my end. It might be different from the artist's perspective, you know?
Yeah, let's hear your perspective, Miles.
I think to be completely honest, being like on like the end of being a vocalist, it's I got to give it up to Jabari for like placing canvases so elegantly in the way that he does, because that's point of first contact. Like I hear, just as he said, like you know, he realizes within making his art the ability to convey a story and keep things cohesive but keep them evolving and everything. And the production being the first point of contact for me, hearing it definitely has a huge impact on like what I'm gonna say, how I'm gonna say it, and everything like that. So I got to give it up to Jabari in the realm of evolution and mapping out these projects, because he could have easily sent through, like, I think the Comet series in particular excels like on the kind of somber late night metropolis type of vibe, like which I really like. And that like is what pulled me into Jabari's production initially when we first started working together. And as he evolved through that and like started building out and being able to accomplish so many different things within his production sonically, I was just very grateful that he laid out the paths he did within the production he would send through, because this guy works like crazy. Like out of what the album was, there is like probably, you know, there's tens and tens and tens, hundreds, maybe hundreds of other beats where it's like, and songs that we've made, production he sent through that is within the general vibe of what we're going for. So he's, one thing about Jabari I find is he's always like ready to capture it. And I'm just very grateful that with that somber tone and kind of that late night metropolis feel, that was overall, I would say, dictated through Jabari's production. I'm glad to have like a positive effect on it with vocals laying on top of the track and be able to still encapsulate the same kind of feeling. And not only that, but I just at the same time, it feels between us when we work like so effortless. To whereas we create and then it just happens like you would think it from firsthand perspective, it's like second nature. Like you wouldn't even know, oh, there is a plan to this, method to the madness or whatever, order in the chaos. But there is, and it's just so much fun doing that. It just seems like once you're at the end, you just got there. You don't know how, but you did. And
Well, yeah.
So yeah.
I like that you bring up kind of this dynamic of, Jabari is essentially what is foundational to the projects here, because that's kind of where we start in terms of like what we're hearing, the music. And how you react to what he's made as a vocalist, what you're doing on that. Because we can kind of look at that on the flip side, because I know that Jabari, you're pretty passionate about like your position as a producer and how producers are treated and where you stand in a social space as a producer.
For sure.
Where do you find the social position as a producer right now, and how do you sort of brand yourself? How do you represent yourself just beyond the beats that people are hearing?
Well, like that's a really, really good question, actually.
Thank you.
I've been thinking about it a lot lately, only because, like, as Miles was saying, it is a very late, somber tone, that I really, if you all listen to me initially, it will give you that, I want to say branding wise as a producer, I've kind of been trying to stray away just from putting so much emphasis on like I know I'm really skilled at producing, if that makes sense. I know I'm really skilled. It's already been established that I'm skilled, but now
I like that you said that too.
Yeah,
I like
like I feel like that the baseline is already established, but now it's more so like, I don't want to say mysterious or anything like that, but just hopefully being myself, and then hopefully that authentic version of myself comes across as something that's, not too much out there, not too far removed. So I hope my sense of self is very balanced, if that makes sense, and that relates to my brand, because I don't want to be someone who's just known only for like the late somber vibes of SEWERPERSON, but I also don't want to be only known for like chasing placements in the industry where everyone is chasing placements and trying to be the number one producer. So I don't know if I had to answer that question in like one succinct sentence. I would say I'm going for the most balanced view of JABARionthebeat that I can, and if that means a little bit of somber late night cruising with a dash of funniness, lightheartedness, whatever that combination is or that melting pot is, I just hope it's like authentic, and that's what's coming across with my brand right now,
Yeah, and you mentioned like people chasing placements and kind of trying to cement themselves in the music industry, even if that means kind of maybe sacrificing creative visions in order to make things more accessible. And with you and with your YouTube pages, you have a platform where your platform is based off of people that you've never met, people you have no idea who they are, using your production, people taking your work and using it for themselves. I mean, that's how you and Miles met. And, so how much do you consider accessibility to what you're making? Do you separate, what's going up on your YouTube for other things? At what point do you say, this is my vision, and how much are you kind of willing to shift if maybe that's what's, maybe required of you?
So I usually, I'm actually really happy you brought that up. I usually don't separate, or in the past, I try not to separate like the accessibility of YouTube versus like anything else, only because my original brand was, I'm for everyone. But as I've been working with Miles, I'm starting to feel like in a perfect world, I really could be in a perfect world, I would just do a bunch of like songs with Miles and just drop all day, every day for the rest of my life. And that would just be like my communication to the world. I really do honestly feel like out of every artist I work with, like Miles is the only person who gets what I'm feeling across, like I'm always really happy that I can share to like a massive audience on YouTube and have people come and things like that. But the one person that for some reason always knows exactly what I'm going through when I make that beat, or what emotion I was feeling when I laid down that sample or laid down the chords or put the bass line this way or made the outro intro this way is always Miles, Like I never even have to explain my hook or verse hook arrangement, because it changes a lot sometimes depending on my production. And it's like he just knows my style so well that like he knows where the highs and the lows are, and he just fits in each pocket really well. So I will say I'm definitely getting away from accessibility, if you wanna say that. I just kind of been cherishing like these moments that I've been making, even if they're not cherished by everyone right now. I gotta give this to Miles too. He taught me really to like cherish these moments, and just kind of tunnel vision out everything. Because we're really happy doing what we're doing, and the conversation we're having with you is like what we have every other day when we're just chilling, talking about music and life and stuff. So And I feel like that makes the best music for me. So yeah, I'm getting away from accessibility.
I'd agree. And, shifting lanes a little bit, kind of just on the topic of, as you guys as collaborators, Miles, Toronto, Jabari, you're from New York. We have these massive epicenters of music. And so if at all, how would you guys say that, the regions that you sort of operate in, influence your art and your creative process?
Oh my God, good question, bro. You want to go first, Mike?
This guy with the questions, I'm telling you, eh?
He's going crazy today.
I do my research.
Good shit, man. It shows. Yeah, sure, I'll go first. So one thing that I'm super grateful for about Toronto and New York together is that they're also in pretty close proximity. So like, if Barry and I are like, yo, like we're pretty much every time like we start a project, we'll try to like link during the project and like get some shit in live in person. So it's not like we're separated a worlds away, which is great. And it feels like more organic because of that, I would say. As for my inspiration from Toronto, like from a lyrical side, like just growing up, listening to people like, when I was a kid, I remember Cardinal Official was like really big, right? And he was from Toronto.
Right.
Or is from Toronto. Drake, Weeknd, Nav, EXO, OVO, like people like that, and listening to those artists growing up have just given me like a huge appreciation, not only for hip hop, but Toronto's sound within hip hop, because like especially when I was younger, I would listen to obviously a lot, like the epicenter, I feel like, of hip hop is the US. And the greatest rappers ever have been born in the US, and the genre like, came to be really, I you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it was really cool seeing like Toronto artists, and just being like, oh, okay, like people are fucking with Canada as well. And I feel like you have a lot. Music is really, Toronto music, especially, one thing I like about Toronto is it's really involved within like everyday life in the city. Like if you hear people listening to something in their cars outside, or restaurants playing music, usually it's like, I feel Toronto is pretty proud of the music that it creates. So you hear a lot of Toronto music when just on a day-to-day kind of level. So it has a subconscious influence, but it also really helped that a lot of what I listened to back in the day, as well as today, was Toronto underground stuff. And it kind of taught me how to, like, I always associated, if we're talking about, because now Jabari can craft anything, and he's been able to craft anything for a long time. But when I think specifically of like one of the things he crafts, which is like a late night vibe kind of thing, I heavily associate that with like other Toronto music that I've heard growing up. So that really attracted me to that sound initially, and then I was just pleasantly surprised when I heard this guy could do fucking anything.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Because I'm like, okay, but yeah, that's why I would say for Toronto influence within me, at least.
Yeah, Jabari, what has New York music done for you?
Man, first of all, Miles was spot on. A lot of my early influences was early Party Next Door from the SoundCloud days, Drake from the Best I Ever Had time, early Kanye. So initially, yes, that was he was spot on. That was my first like inspiration for everything. But also, being from Brooklyn and shit like that, hip hop, as he said, is like huge over here in like Brooklyn, New York City in general. So working with Miles also made me, it's always so funny working with Miles, because all my friends is like, yo, how are you working with someone like Miles who's all the way in Toronto? You guys are completely different cultures almost. Like,
right. How
does it work? And I'm like, honestly, believe it or not, I feel like a lot of our like, if you listen to our music, it really does overlap a lot. Like, I feel like Miles does a great job of blending like the hip hop from New York with the hip hop from Toronto, or like, the pop from, from both sides, and it's like, I agree, it's such slight nuances in Toronto and New York, but they're both such big music cultural hubs that it's like, I feel like part of me feels like it was inevitable. Even if we do get like Flock working together, I really do feel like it was inevitable. And I'm also really happy to be able to mix the Toronto and the New York sound. I feel like no one who's doing that, you know, like whoever mixed
Not many
Toronto
people.
and New York, you know. So I don't know. That's like I love it. I love it. I love what it's become, and I hope I could just leave a stamp in like Brooklyn music history with it.
Yeah.
What I do with Miles, you know.
Yeah, and like you said, that combination between kind of this, kind of like sort of sultry R&B fueled nightlife Toronto hip hop. You've got, the hip hop,
The booming 808s of Brooklyn.
Yeah, exactly.
Subs of Brooklyn.
Yeah, and so I know that you guys pull, Miles, like you said, whether subconscious or not, I know how much inspiration you guys pull from your respective regions. But outside of that, I know that last time we talked, Miles, you talked about how much books, how much fiction influenced and impacted, your writing process and your creative process. And Jabari, I know that your grandmother also was involved in music, and she pursued that as well, being a vocalist and a pianist. So there's outside influences as well. What would you say, whether it be specific musical acts or outside of music, what is really kind of influencing and crafting the sound that you guys are going for each respectively right now?
Do you want to go first? I go first.
Yeah. I'm a formulate.
Yeah,
I'm doing Kanye.
There you go. Also, just to add on to the last question, I think it's great to to find somebody. I'm really grateful to find somebody like Jabari who's like so inviting within the musical process, with the knowledge he has of New York, New York hip hop and the music scene within New York, to be able to meet somebody so inviting and so artistically talented, like intelligent, to be able to be like, okay, we're making a song together. We're connecting as two humans from our respective places, but two humans. And he'll show me influences that he has learned through what he's grew up around. And I have the honor of being able to adapt myself to those influences sonically and, bring something that I might have to the table out of where I'm from. So I just want to say very appreciative of that. But also, as for what has influenced my writing process, as of late, I do read a lot. I'm reading this book right now. Sorry.
No, one of my questions is, what are you reading recently? So this is perfect.
Oh, perfect. There we go. So I'm reading this book called We Used to Live Here. Really cool book by Marcus Kleiwer. It's like a thriller about a couple that flips houses, moving into a new house, and essentially getting ready for teardown and getting ready for the process of flipping it when a family comes in who used to live there. The dad used to live there, at least he says so. And once they enter, they kind of have a hard time getting them to leave. And everything just seems to go awry in the perfect way, to whereas they'll stay another hour, and it becomes like a thriller. And within the area, there's, really strange happenings going on in regards to intruders and entities. And it kind of makes you think of this family that has entered this house so innocently. They might, have an ulterior motive or whatnot.
Yeah.
But that's what I'm reading right now. Books have always been a big part of writing for me, just because I feel like the more words you know, the more words you can say.
Right.
And obviously things don't retain. The first time I read things, I have I guess I have a problem with that, where I really got to burn things in. That's why audiobooks are a little harder for me, because I'll just space out for 30 seconds. I'm lost. So keeping the amount of books I read up and just things that I'm interested in, not forcing it and finding time for it, is really important. But mostly as of recent, especially on the album Jabari and I did, I've been gaining a lot of influence from movies and TV, and just going through certain concepts, whether it involves my two favorite genres for TV are high fantasy and crime. And I feel like shows like Sopranos, Mr. In-Between, Tulsa King, Game of Thrones, Vikings, things like that, where there's just a strong sense of brotherhood, kind of, within even the drama like experienced in all these shows listed, like there's like an aspect of never faulting your step and never falling from grace. And
I
cat's
promise you can
causing
keep
a-
talking. My cat is trying to break out of my room.
Oh, you're all good. My guy's just chilling here. There he is. He had one of those true sticks, and he's just out of it now. He's just out of it.
Yo, that's why he's doing like that.
I love him. I love him. But yeah, I would say the movies and TV I've been watching have been of a huge influence as of recently. And I just feel it's really cool to pull concepts and vibes from that and focus like I've been trying directions to focus less, not necessarily on the words, although the words are of course important, especially with lyrics.
Right.
But I feel like you can craft so much more than like diction, so much more than the words would initially allow you to, just from hearing, oh, okay, well, that means that. But if you, I found that stringing certain sentences together can encapsulate a vibe as opposed to an actual meaning, tangible, lyrical meaning. And connecting certain tissues will just create almost a landscape. So I've been trying to lyrically, in watching these shows and these movies, almost accent the production, especially on Screwy, in a way that it accents it almost like another element of the production. Like it accents it as, say, another counter melody on top or another melody, albeit there is lyrical content, and the lyrical content is purposeful. Like I meant to say certain things and all that, but within, being so driven by fantasy and everything, in a lot of other things I work on, and like the books I read and everything, being able to kind of create a spellbinding effect with saying certain things and having certain sentence structure. To form almost like a accenting melody. I really was trying to strive for that as of recently, and I've been having a great time doing it. So
it's like this idea of words, not just necessarily as what you're saying as a sentence, but how the words are impacting the sound of the music, how you are using your voice to kind of be an additional element of whatever is satisfactory about how the song sounds. More than what you're saying, it's, how you're saying it and how you sound saying it.
Absolutely. I feel like the underappreciated aspect of vocals is just consonants as opposed to vowels. Like, obviously, everybody knows they hit different, but when you are practicing, say, like when you're using alliteration in a song or just going heavy on consonants, you almost become a vocalist percussive, like a percussion element.
That's so true.
Within your vocals, so if you keep it like P's and K's and C's and T's, as opposed to like A, I, O, U, like you kind of really hit it harder. So structuring sentences like that, it gives you like a drum.
You get that impact.
Exactly.
And then Jabari, we can move on. Let's move on to you, I guess, in that regard. Like where are you, whether, like I said, whether in or outside of music as an art form, it's like, where are you kind of pulling this inspiration from? Where, and maybe not even inspiration that's directly impactful, maybe what is just something that influences your art in any way?
So, funny enough, I used to read a lot like Miles, but as I kind of progressed, like with my production and mastery over whatever I'm going to achieve, I've actually done a lot less reading and a lot more listening. So my mentor is Ninth Wonder, and Ninth Wonder is very big on understanding the intersection between like music, media, like film, like what Miles is doing, and just understanding like why it's so important to know like why big films like Menace to Society come up very prevalently in like a lot of music in the 90s, for example. I'm just understanding the relationship between those things, and then I also grew up in a household of a lot of R&B. My mom, I'm gonna say this on interview for me, but I grew up in a single parent household, and my mom listened to like a lot of like, I want to say like Chrisette Michele, Toni Braxton, so many people, Foxy Brown, there's so many people. Sorry, a lot of different musical inspirations, but it was a big heavy emphasis on like R&B and soul music, So that combined with like a lot of the things I've been learning recently just kind of changed my perspective on music. But my inspirations have always come from the things I went through. Like hard, raw, pure emotions like love, heartbreak, guilt. A lot of times when I even sit down to make music, I gotta actively be experiencing the emotion. Like I can't. It's hard for me to make music if I'm not going through something that I'm actively going through. You know, like Comment
Yeah.
4, I told Miles I was going through like a serious heartbreak at the time. You know, I had gotten like cheated on. You know, so it was very easy for me to convey those feelings in like Family Unit, for example, or Brooklyn Bound. You know, and if you listen like a lot, or I'm sorry, there's so many different songs right now I'm thinking.
Oh no,
of,
you're
but
good. There's just
yeah,
it's something to channel.
if you really listen to like the production and just put it together with like a lot of my inspirations, you could kind of paint a story. I don't really get to speak about it a lot, you know, so I'm actually really happy you even brought
Well, that's
it up.
why we're here.
Yeah. Yeah, that's definitely where like a lot of my inspirations come. You know, just experiencing these certain emotions and seeing certain emotions from people I care about and love. It makes it very easy for me to just put it on into like an audio form.
A real quick little sort of side question: is that a Hello Kitty basketball hoop?
Yeah.
Oh, you want to see something funny?
Yeah. Come on. Oh. Let me do a slam dunk on that.
No way.
I've got the same one. That's crazy.
That is niche. That's a
it's a weird thing to share between us, I would say, out of all of the things. So a big reason we're here is Screwy, new album. That's always a very big deal. But before we get to that, I got one question for each of you, personal to each of you. Something small, just something to talk about, something I found interesting from, you know, sort of both of your all's careers. Starting off, Jabari, last year, I think maybe January, you were part of a certified platinum record, Lil TJ, Destined to Win. You know, what was it like hitting that milestone, man? That's kind of a big deal.
To be honest, it changed. Like it was weird for me, you know. Like a lot of, I guess, like the stigma around chasing a music career is like people don't really think it's gonna work out, you know. So
yeah.
When I have conversations with a lot of people, you know, and you know, I'll be talking with people in different industries such as fashion, film, and a lot of people can strut their legs, I guess, in terms of like, you know, a successful collaboration with someone really big or things like that. So when I'm able to just say like I went platinum off of something that I did, you know, it makes me really happy, bro. Of course, it changed my career in a way where like it puts you on a certain plateau, I guess, or like a pedestal for like tiers. But it also just made me realize, like, you know, a record you do like that lasts forever. Like, it's really tied to like your real name, your identity, social security, everything. Everything that's identifying you is tied to, you know. And a lot of people don't know this. So like, it just felt good knowing that like I'm working in this world permanently, somewhat, and like my identity is tied to, you know. Like I can say I actually did that, and it just made me really happy to think, wow, my music is appreciated at such a level that, you know, it got me this accolade, and I just had to be really grateful for it. But it also didn't make me cocky in a sense, like I stepped away from my production. It actually kind of made me want to like double down on my sound and everything I established, just to not get lost in all the golds and platinums and Grammys and things like that nowadays, you know. I also didn't want to get lost in that. So
stay grounded. That's the way to do it.
Yeah, that's my little spiel.
Yeah, and then, you know, on the topic of goals, on the topic of accomplishments, we shift our focus to Miles here. In a bit of a different context, this year you wrapped up a 5-week, 24-show tour with Garden and Godlow. You know, been touring more frequently over the years, and you've got a lot of them under your belt at this point. You know, sort of, you know, how was that tour, and also, you know, what is, you know, one or two of just your favorite moments from being able to have that experience live and in person?
It was a great time, and I'm forever thankful for all those boys for having me on the road. And just as the last one was, this was an amazing experience to be a part of. It was a blessing also to like get to see people while we were on the road. Like when I came through New York, Jabari came out to the show. Our friends came out to the show. It was great. It was a hilarious time. It was great. I was really glad. It definitely, experiences like that make being away so much easier. Being able to see somebody I love and share a moment with them can just give you the gas to carry you longer than you could ever know.
Yeah.
I'm grateful for those experiences. I would say two of, but yeah, wonderful. I always love touring and getting to meet people that support me and are the reason why I can actually do this. It's a blessing. And two of my, I would say two experiences that I can think of off the top of my head that were really, really cool. One, I met somebody, I think it was in San Antonio, but I could be wrong. And they were there before the show. And I forget their name, but it was amazing. They handed me some books, and it was 3 books that they had written. The full length books, novels.
Yeah.
That they had written, fantasy geared, good stuff too. That they had written. Wow. Maybe within inspiration. I think my music was, they were saying they had on while they were writing, or but just to be involved in a process like that and support, unknowingly, like be supporting creative process elsewhere in this world is great. It's like, because I look at creativity as it's all part of the cloud. Obviously, everybody's different. We vary in degrees of difference, but regardless of all that, we all have the ability to create something and leave it as a legacy and accent this field of creativity and heart and soul. And it's just awesome knowing that things that you do can possibly spark a reaction that will keep that cloud filling up with more content and more amazing stuff elsewhere in the world. I would say the second thing that stands out to me is, I think it was I want to say this. Man, I forget what show it was, but there was a power outage.
Oh no!
It was crazy. So we were gonna play. I want to say San Francisco, but I know that it's wrong. There was the opener. They were fucking amazing, coolest fucking name ever. Michael Jordan, Jesus Christ. They killed it, right? They killed it. But we were there. It was Kansas City.
All right.
And basically there was a stadium show next door, and they all launched balloons. And I remember we were all like, oh shit, like, yeah, a ton of balloons in the air, like that's pretty cool. And then all of a sudden, like 2 minutes later, you just hear, and they fucking like hit some sort of power line, power station or something, burn the block, like everything was down. And everybody's like, oh man, like we couldn't get the show going because the whole venue was out. So everybody's waiting outside, and we were like, oh, we felt so bad, but we were like, at least we'll like meet people outside, and maybe worst case we could get like a little something on top of the Sprinter van going with a big speaker or something.
Yeah, some sort of sing along, just something.
Yeah. Anyways, it turned out to be the sickest of accents, because like about an hour later, while we were chilling outside, the power comes back on, and then everybody's super amped because you're waiting. You thought it wasn't gonna happen, then it happens again, and it was just a great show.
Nice.
So that was another funny experience. One more. Arizona, they got Waymos, self-driving Ubers. That shit blew my mind. Driving around, cameras everywhere. Everybody, you better believe it, every single passenger in these things is just filming the front. That's what I would do. But no one's there. So that kind of blew my mind.
That's crazy.
Self-driving Uber. Pretty cool.
I don't know if I'd trust that. I'd be nervous to get into a car when nobody's driving.
I would do it once for the novelty, right? But
beyond that.
Too many people got that flipper zero nowadays. You never know. You're going to fucking go full throttle, stand mode off the bridge, dude.
Well, all right. I think we can officially move into Screwy discussion. I've got a couple questions that we can expand upon as much as we want, but I think the first one, going right into it, is I think kind of like the good way to start the conversation, being what makes, in both of your all's minds, what makes this album specifically different from anything else that you guys have done before?
That's a great question. Do you want to go first, Barry?
Yeah, I could definitely start from a production point. So like very early on in my career, a lot of the manipulation of like samples or vocals or anything for that matter was very it was shorter, you know. Not to give away too much sauce, but like even for like what's like a good song, you know, anything from Comment One, to be honest.
Okay.
If you listen to like a lot of the vocal manipulations and chop I use, I kind of strayed away from using like entire compositions. I would only use like the first 10, 15 seconds or a good snippet of something I liked. And I, you know, that was an ode to like what I thought or what I knew as sampling at the time, you know. But for Screwy, I took a whole different approach, and I took the entire composition of every song that I was flipping, and then I flipped the entire composition as opposed to just a small fragment in time. So a lot of the production sounds like it's changing and evolving from beginning to end, but it's because I manipulated the original composition and kept the whole composition. I didn't eliminate anything. I kept if that was 3 minutes and 15 seconds or 7 minutes, I kept the whole thing. And then just tried to rearrange it and you know, make it sound fire based off of that. But for like a lot of my earlier work before I got really, what I want to say is like really, really good with sampling. There was a lot less manipulation of drums, bass, sample, everything. A lot less manipulation overall, which I guess was, I don't know, some people like it, some people hate it, but I kind of like how I've been evolving. You know, I kind of like hearing the more simplistic, more like less tracks and less patterns in like Comment One, and then as we get from like Comment Four to Screwy, there's like evolution in like the beginning and the end. Like I think Soundwave is a perfect example of that.
Yeah.
Like Soundwave, if you feel like you're just a movie throughout the whole thing, but it's because I if I could show you the project file, like I really kept and manipulated so many good parts, and you know the vocals and everything. I'm just really liking how I can manipulate sounds now. Really, really happy. Can't wait to see what I can do now. In the future.
Yeah. Miles, how about you?
Hell yeah. So just as we were saying earlier, my first point of contact is hearing the production. And when Jabari started sending through, I think I woke up one morning actually, and Jabari had sent, like, we talk all the time, but he hadn't sent any beats through for a decent amount of time. And then I wake up one morning and there's 10 right there, and he goes, let's get this project going.
All right.
And I was like, no way. And I think I was like, yo, this is like Christmas morning, like 10 beats. When I see that, that's like, I cancel the day schedule. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So hearing the lengths in which he evolved within the production, like from Comment One to Screwy, but even from our last project, from projects like Comment 4 to Screwy, hearing the strides he took and the leaps he's taking, and the different areas he's accessing, and just the fearlessness in accessing those areas, it got me super, super hyped. And hearing the production he was sending through, I was absolutely loving it. So from a vocal perspective, on this album, what I did differently was I tried, as we were saying earlier, I was taking more inspiration from settings, whether it be movies, other music, things like that, as opposed to when we talk about books, because the production is just so otherworldly, and it's some of my favorite shit from Jabari ever, that I wanted to do my best to, as we were saying earlier, accent as almost a post-production element of production, like another melody, accent the beat with my vocals in a way that would not only work well with the beat, but would allow it to shine less vocal heavy, less like allow the instrumentation to really speak on these songs. So I tried to approach it in a method where I could rap about stuff I'm taking influence from, and things that have inspired me. As Jabari said, like usually he'll be going through something actively and put that into his music, that feeling that he is experiencing. If he's feeling it, he can make music derived from those feelings. That was what I tried to do in terms of the inspirations I was taking in, whether it be movies, TV, real life events, everything. I tried to tune that lyrically, and then on top of that, fine tune it and streamline it in a way that would allow the beat to speak its piece and show, like allow people to hear the amazing stuff I was hearing when it got sent to me.
Yeah.
And not kind of overcomplicate the track on my end vocally.
Yeah.
And it came out as something, Jabari and I would say something unlike any other project we've ever released, and also my favorite project. I know it might be a hot take, but my favorite project. Yeah, my favorite
stand
project
by it.
we've ever released. Yeah.
You see, it's even funnier too, Miles, because like, I don't know if you're okay with me saying this, but like,
Do your thing.
even before we did Screwy, it's even funny to even think about it, because we make so much new music that we had another project in the works, like a pre-tour or like during tour album, my bad, with a lot of post-production from Eric. And I've actually never engaged in like a lot of post-production in my career, and that album sounded nutty. Well, it is sounding nutty because it's still not done, you feel me? But you know, so like I always got to think, Miles. I feel like every album Miles convinces me to do something new, you know, like, and I appreciate it.
Thank you, bro.
And like, I don't know, like a lot of people were like when he said let's drop Screwy first and then figure out like what we want to do after. Yeah. Like I don't usually trust people when they tell me shit like that, but Miles is the person I trust. Oh, for real, like when Miles says some shit like that, I'm like, all right, like I trust him. You feel? Because I really wanted to. Me personally, like I love this shit with Eric so much. I'm like, and I feel like, you know, maybe the fan base might just hate so much of the hip hop theme, you know, nice aesthetic I like to bring sometimes. So, and I really do I like Eric's take on a lot of the shit I sent him. You know, being that he had to do post production on something that started as like a Jabari thing first, and then had to add the Eric spin. You know, but I trusted Miles' vision when he was like, yo, like, let's drop Screwy. And I was really nervous, especially since a lot of the tracks is just me by myself, and I haven't done that in years, you know?
Yeah.
So on top of it being like a new sound that I feel like I developed. So I feel like people don't give Miles enough credit, you know, but I guess that's like a lot of behind the scenes stuff that people don't know.
Yeah.
So
and
appreciate you.
And that's why we're here to talk about it now.
There you go.
But, you know, I like, you know, Jabari, I like you bringing up kind of how Miles is sort of pushing you into these, you know, pushing you to try new things. And, you know, Miles, you've talked so extensively about, you know, how Jabari's production really is like the foundation of what's going on in this project. Because when you listen to, about killed my microphone, because when you listen to Screwy, you know, when you listen to the production of Screwy, you have this like glistening kind of noir snappy production from Jabari. It's super lush, but also it's super dark and moody. And then Miles, on your end with the writing, and you know how you say you're using your vocals to accent the beats. You have this kind of spiraling like series of nightlife vignettes as sort of the foundation for what you're writing about.
Lovely wording.
Thank you. And so basically, I'm going to flip-flop it on you guys, and I want to hear from both of you what your favorite part of the project is that each other did. Miles, what is your favorite thing about this finished product that Jabari did? Jabari, what is your favorite thing about this finished project that Miles did?
I go first on that.
Go for it.
So, just to clarify, also, I'm super grateful to hear like I could be of any influence in you know, wanting you to try something new or try this, because we all know you're more than capable of doing all that. So it'd be any sort of catalyst that helps you see that you know, just the fucking plethora of things you're able to accomplish. I'm really grateful for that. But I would say one thing that initially just hit me out of the water with the production Jabari was doing on this album was the swing within a lot of the production this time, as opposed to if you listen to the comments, some of my favorite sounds in hip hop as well, which are very like there's certain songs that have a mathematical feel with the drum patterns and the melodies and sampling that's used. And this one was a different kind of almost like holistic feel, like a very natural swingy like feel. To whereas like one that just, you know, when you see people videos of them in the studio and they're just like there's that one when Timbaland's making Dirt Off Your Shoulder for Jay-Z, and he goes You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? You're saying? But like things like that just really get your head like bobbing and hitting like these natural kind of swingy pockets.
Yeah.
And not only that, as swinging as it is and as tempo breaking like as it is artistically, every single 8 bar, everything comes back together to smack right on par where it's supposed to smack. And then it's like, I don't even know, it's like a strand of DNA, how
Yeah.
DNA goes and it intertwines at a very tight section, and then it pops out and flays and all the elements are shown, and then it wraps back into
Yeah.
another and pops back off
That's
again.
a great way to describe it.
Thank you. Yeah, that's what really struck me as different this time around on this new project.
Yeah. Jabari, hit us with it.
Man, so my favorite, or you said favorite, right? Or
Favorite. What is your favorite thing that Miles did on this project?
Yeah. Okay. So, producer has like a pattern that they kind of overuse that kind of like lets you know, like, all right, this is that guy. Like, he uses this pattern a lot. And on the song Team 6.5, you know, like I use that pattern quite often. Like in a couple other songs, you could hear across like that Miles has done. I just added like a little difference by adding like a little percussion, things like that. But I'm just thinking, how the hell is Miles gonna hit this? Because I'm thinking like did this pattern at least 4 times with me,
right?
And I'm like, I feel bad at this point that like, you know, like I really don't know how he's gonna do it. And I hear Team 6.5, and I'm like, oh my god, this is breathtaking, you know. And I always tell my like, you know, you guys did like very, you painted a vivid picture in my brain just now with your descriptions, but. I'm sorry, like I tell Miles this all the time. I gotta be like a little kid when I say this. Like every time, like I get a song from Miles and it makes me feel like we're in an anime and we're back to back in like an anime, and we're like fighting, and we're like fighting like some big ass boss or something, and you know, through all the sounds of the fight, like you just put the sound on top and it's just perfect. And I'm like, whenever I feel like a track like that, Miles does that, and I feel like that, I know it's just sweet bliss, like perfection to me, you know. And maybe it's because I watch so much goddamn anime or play so many video games where they're like, it's just all centered around like being a hero and doing what's right because it's right. But I always get that vibe from Miles' music, you know. It's like just two guys who want to just make music that makes them happy, you know. And they're both just doing the right thing and, you know, trying to make it. And you feel that, you know. And I got to say, Team 6.5 gave me that fit. Even though there's a lot of great tracks like Sound Wave and things like that that make me feel like, oh, you know. But Team 6.5, like, I don't know what it is. It's just like, yo, Miles does it every time. Like, it doesn't matter if it's the same pattern. It doesn't matter if it's the same note, key, anything. Like, he's going to do it every time. And he's going to make you feel.
Right.
And I don't know how he does it. I don't know how he does it, bro.
Yeah. And, you know, I feel like you guys have honestly sort of gotten ahead of me a little bit and answered a lot of my other questions that I've had just by kind of going off and branching off these ideas, which I'm incredibly grateful for. It saves me a lot of work. And so I guess sort of looking at Screwy as an overall project, you know, the album wraps up with No Pulse, right? And No Pulse, I would argue, is maybe one of the more sobering tracks of the project. Kind of those sort of general philosophy scattered throughout, but there's, you know, there's a lot going on within it. So No Pulse fades out, album's over, 14 tracks. What do you guys each respectively really want people to take away from this album as, you know, as a finalized product, as a listening experience? You know, what are you hoping that people take away from it?
I personally, I think I'm gonna go simple with this one. Okay. And I'm gonna say the project, what I would want people to take away from it is that it's meant to be enjoyed. I want people to take away from it.
Meant to be fun.
This is something that we created because of our passion involved and the fun involved in creating it, because it's what we love to do. And there, as we were talking about, emotions that you're going through in life dictate a lot of the things you put out musically. I think it's important to take away that this project is the amalgamation of our lives in this section of our lives.
Yeah.
And just as the other ones before it were in their own regard. And I think we are showing you this section of our lives. And of course, you like it or you don't like it. And either or are totally respectable opinions, of course. Right.
Yeah.
And I'm glad people, have different opinions about it, because at the end of the day, this is everything within our lives are unique. So to have something that is completely different from the other things before and on a different wave than the other things from before, I think it's important to have people liking it and disliking it, as long as the takeaway is that this is a part of us that we're showing to you, and do with it what you will. But don't, how do I even say it? I don't have the right words for it, but don't stress yourself out. You know what I mean? It's meant to be enjoyed. Enjoy it or don't enjoy it. Yeah. It is what it is. And either way is totally respectable. I just think, this is what we've come with, and I'm very happy with it.
And sometimes it's not too complex. Sometimes it's like, hey, this is where we're at. Take it how you will.
And there's much more to come, too.
That's what I like to hear.
As Larry was saying, we already got like another one in the books.
Yeah.
Not saying too much, but we definitely have some other shit in the book or after that. And all they're going to be, it's just going to keep getting better and better. So always keep an eye peeled for that.
Jabari, what do you want people taking away from this project?
I've kind of been getting some of the messages, and people kind of been like telling me. I'm actually happy you brought this up. I really hope people take away, just happy that we're alive, we exist, and we're progressing. Musically, Miles brought it up in like a last talking point you had said, which is really interesting. But the simplest things can actually be really complex, in my opinion. And even the feeling that he told you about, like where he's feeling like bopping his head and things like that. It's actually a real thing called the eternal bounce, and it's actually something I was taught by Ninth Wonder. And he was telling me that like that pattern that a lot of the patterns that you hear in Screwy, it's a pattern that you'll hear time and time, like for the rest of your life. But it's always when they evoke the feeling that Miles told you, where you always want to groove and bounce. And a lot of the best producers from the 90s and moving even into the 2000s utilize this bounce. You can even hear it a lot today, just stylized with like more modern contemporary sounds. But I was so hung up on the fact that something as simple as like that pattern actually has a name, and it's like, a technique that people employ to make you feel something. Yeah. Again, it just brought me back to the beauty of music, and the beauty of why I even started this. I loved it, like being able to make people feel how I feel through techniques, through different things I'm doing, how I just want to do things, make people feel things, and that just blows my mind every time,
Yeah.
So I hope people take away the evolution. I hope they take away the love, chef's kiss techniques, like I just talked about, the errors, the olds, everything like that. I just hope they appreciate it all, that we're alive and we're still here.
Yeah. Well, that just about does it for my questions. Thank you both. You've been great. Appreciate you for coming on.
Yo, thank you, bro.
Yeah. Gotta say,
interview my fucking best friend right here.
There you go. Yes, sir. That's the thing.
There you go.
It's not just in the music, it's in real life too. So rest assured, you will not be hearing the end of us anytime soon. God forbid. And it's always a pleasure. I gotta give it up to you also, MELMIGE. Put this in the video. This guy.
Okay, I'll keep it.
He's got questions. Well researched. Well researched. He's gonna ask.
Immaculate.
Super respectable guy. Great guy. Well organized, calculated, great questions. Gotta give it up. Just a great interviewer, man.
Thank you so much. That means a lot. Thank you. You two come back when you guys drop that one you got in the works. Come back and we'll talk more.
Hey, there you go.
I'll come back with a coffee and an actual computer next time.
There you go. Thank you guys.
All right, thank you.
Yo, safe, M.